On any given day during the regular season, there are about 780 active Major League players, and only a handful are really big-name superstars that the casual sports fan can name just by seeing his photo. Aaron Judge, Garrett Cole, Mike Trout, Ronald Acuna Jr., pretty much the entire first half of the Dodgers starting lineup are examples of these types of players. But today, we'll be talking about another group of players who the casual fan might not be able to name, but whose presence in a lineup or on a mound is almost just as important as the big-name superstars. These are players who are often overlooked for all-star teams and get very little media and fan attention when compared to the big names, but they put up amazing numbers and do almost just as much, if not more, to help their teams win games. So let's get into my list of the top 25 most underrated active MLB players, and let me know your thoughts down below with some names that you'd put on the list as well. And keep in mind, this is not ranking the players based on how good they are, rather how underrated they are. So please don't yell at me because a better player is ranked lower on the list. The higher the ranking, the more underappreciated I feel they are, but everyone's opinion will differ, so let's get into it. Number 25, Lars Nootbaar, outfield, St. Louis Cardinals. During the Cardinals' atrocious 2023 meltdown of a season, there was one bright spot, and it got brighter and brighter as the season went along, and that's outfielder Lars Nootbaar. Nootbaar made his big league debut in 2021 and had some key hits, including a walk-off. But he really didn't start to get hot until 2023 when he began to play every day and just got hotter as the season went along. By July, he was on fire and for a 3-week stretch was one of the best hitters in the game. He ended the season with a .367 on-base percentage and 14 home runs with a 3.3 WAR. He may not deserve superstar status, but he definitely seems a bit underrated after such a solid performance. Number 24, Thairo Estrada, second base, San Francisco Giants. In at number 24 is second baseman Thairo Estrada, who was DFA'd by the Yankees after hitting just 167 in 48 at-bats in 2020. The Giants grabbed him, stashed him in AAA, and he forced them to call him up after hitting .333 with 9 homers and a .937 OPS. In San Francisco, he quickly earned the spot as the everyday second baseman and has been consistently solid ever since, providing excellent defense with a dangerous bat. He hit 14 home runs in both 2022 and 2023 and has been one of the few Giants who is always a threat to steal a base. Estrada doesn't do any one thing at a superstar level, but is a solid all-around guy who helps his team win games, as evidenced by his 5.1 WAR since coming to San Francisco. Number 23, Zach Eflin, starting pitcher, Tampa Bay Rays. As a former first-round pick who has been around the league several years and never made an all-star team or really been considered a front-tier starter, any hype that once surrounded Zach Eflin has since mostly gone away. He pitched alongside several more prominent starters for years in Philadelphia and then moved on to Tampa Bay, where after some major injuries to their rotation, stepped up in 2023 to help the Rays win 99 games by going 16-8 with a 3.5 ERA, leading the American League in wins. Eflin had been quietly effective for years before that, as his highest ERA from 2018 to 2023 was 4.36. Over his 9-year career, he has a solid 4.32 ERA with a 7.9 per 9 strikeout ratio. Number 22, Andrew Vaughn, first baseman, Chicago White Sox. Vaughn was taken 3rd overall in the 2019 draft, but gets nowhere near the hype of the 2 picked ahead of him, Adley Rutschman and Bobby Witt Jr. Of course, he hasn't been as good as them, so that makes sense, but Vaughn has gotten better every season and is coming off a solid 2023 when he smashed 21 home runs with 80 runs driven in for a struggling White Sox team. He has soft hands and a solid glove at first base, and perhaps most importantly, he stays on the field, playing in 152 games last season and at least 127 every year since his rookie season. Vaughn is one of the few bright spots on this year's Chicago White Sox team, but he doesn't get much attention from the national media or much hype as one of the young future stars of the game. Number 21, Braxton Garrett, starting pitcher, Miami Marlins. Another lefty who's been extremely overlooked is Braxton Garrett of the Marlins. He was at one time a top prospect, but he took a long time to develop as a high school pick who had to have Tommy John early in his minor league career. He made a few appearances for the Marlins in 2020 and 2021, but really didn't break out until 22 when he had a 3.58 ERA in 17 starts. Last season, he was able to make 30 starts, turning in a 3.66 ERA with a 1.15 whip, limiting batters to a 250 average while striking out nearly a batter per inning. Had he not gotten lit up by the Braves during one particular rough start, his ERA would have been 3.12. He certainly isn't a top starter in baseball, but he's been more than solid and gets very little notice for what he's doing in Miami. Number 20, WILMER FLORES, infield, San Francisco Giants. If you asked a casual fan, what player on the Giants hit .284 with 23 home runs last season, they probably couldn't come up with the answer. WILMER FLORES. Despite never having made an all-star team and never being considered a big superstar, WILMER has been a consistent source of production since coming to San Francisco in 2020, and he's also been clutch, coming up with several late-inning RBI hits, including a big walk-off home run. He also has a rare talent this day and age. He rarely strikes out. In 2023, he struck out just 63 times all season long, and so far in 24, has just 5 strikeouts and 34 at-bats. Defensively, Flores is very versatile and can play any position on the infield, although he's mostly used on the corners. He's considered by many to be nothing more than a utility guy, but he led the 2023 Giants in home runs, slugging percentage, OPS, OPS+, and was second in RBIs and on-base percentage. Number 19, Evan Phillips, relief pitcher, Los Angeles Dodgers. It's easy to be underrated when you're on a team stacked with all-stars and future Hall of Famers. And when one thinks about those Dodgers superstars, one of the first that comes to mind is not reliever Evan Phillips. But despite never making an all-star team, he has been one of their most important players, coming out of the bullpen as a lights-out reliever. He performed well enough to earn the role as the closer, and last season had a 2.05 ERA with 24 saves. In 2022, he was even better with an incredible 1.13 ERA in 63 innings. He also has a career 10.4 per 9 strikeout ratio, and so far this season has a 1.37 ERA and leads the league with 5 saves. Phillips should be, based on his numbers, considered one of the best relievers in the game, and if he continues to perform like this, there's no reason he shouldn't make the All-Star team in July. Number 18, Michael Harris II, outfield, Atlanta Braves. Another player on a team stacked with superstar talent is Braves outfielder Michael Harris, who, like Evan Phillips, has never made an All-Star team. But Harris made an incredible run through the minor leagues, making it to the big leagues very quickly for a high school draft pick, and then had an amazing rookie season in 2022, hitting .297 with 19 bombs and an .853 OPS. And there was no sophomore slump coming for Harris, who raked again in 23, hitting .293 with 18 homers. He's also an elite defender and always a threat to steal bases. Harris was a true 5-tool talent who actually developed into a 5-tool big leaguer, yet despite the Rookie of the Year, he still feels underrated and doesn't get near the hype of other young players like Corbin Carroll and Adley Rutschman. Number 17, Lane Thomas, outfield, Washington Nationals. Thomas was a 5th-round pick way back in 2014, and he spent many years in the minor leagues just hoping for a shot. When he finally got it with the Cardinals, he impressed immediately in 2019, displaying his talent with a .319 average and 4 bombs and 38 at-bats. But after his numbers dropped in 2020 and 21, the Cards traded him to the Nationals for John Lester, and Thomas quickly became the starting center fielder. He crushed 3 home runs in a game in 2022, and last season broke out in a big way with 28 bombs, 20 steals, 86 RBIs, and a .738 OPS. Still, he failed to make the All-Star team and doesn't seem to be considered a cornerstone of the Nationals organization. Number 16, Sean Murphy, catcher, Atlanta Braves. If a pitcher looked at the Braves lineup and thought Sean Murphy might be a weak spot among all these superstars like Ozuna, Acuna Jr., and Olsen, he may be in for a big surprise, as Sean Murphy delivered an excellent offensive season last year, crushing 21 home runs in just 108 games with 68 runs driven in. He did all that while also being one of the best defensive catchers in the game, helping the Braves' solid pitching staff continue to dominate the opposition. Prior to his time in Atlanta, he was also excellent in Oakland, crushing 35 home runs between 21 and 22, and he won a Gold Glove in 21 and got some MVP votes in 22, but didn't make his first All-Star team until last year. And although he's definitely considered a great player among baseball fans, Murphy definitely seems underrated. Number 15, Bryson Stott, Infield, Philadelphia Phillies. Next up is a youngster who doesn't get nearly the hype of some of the other recent rookies in the league, but Bryson Stott has been absolutely critical to the success of the Phillies lineup. He is one of the most consistent bats in the league, rarely going into slumps, and constantly hitting and getting on base. He was willing to move to a new position when Trey Turner was signed, and last year, playing mostly at second, he hit .280 with 15 homers and a .329 on base. He also learned his position quickly and became one of the better defensive second basemen in the league. Last season, Bryson Stott had the same 4.4 WAR as Cody Bellinger, Xander Bogaerts, Matt Chapman, Zach Gallen, and Bobby Witt Jr. Number 14, George Kirby, starting pitcher, Seattle Mariners. Despite being a first-round pick in 2019, most of the hype behind the Mariners rotation seems to focus around Logan Gilbert and Luis Castillo. But George Kirby is doing things that no other pitcher can do. He pitches effectively, he strikes out batters, and walks almost nobody. He averaged less than a single walk per game last season, walking just 19 batters all season long while striking out 172. No one else in modern MLB history has started their career with back-to-back seasons with an ERA under 3.5 and a walk rate under 5%. He probably has the best command in the game, and although he'll have a rough start from time to time, no one is better at avoiding free passes, and he still has a more than solid strikeout rate. Number 13, Tanner Bibee, starting pitcher, Cleveland Guardians. Up next is a player who may only be underrated because he came out of nowhere in 2023 to go 10-4 with a 2.98 ERA, instantly becoming a key member of the Cleveland Guardians rotation. Bibee was drafted in the 5th round out of CSU Fullerton in 2021 and dominated the minor leagues in 22. After 3 stellar AAA starts in 2023, the Guardians brought him up and he quickly proved he belonged. However, there didn't seem to be too much hype for him as a Rookie of the Year possibility, at least among the fans, but when it came time for voting, he did finish 2nd place behind Gunnar Henderson. Bibee doesn't get a lot of attention pitching in Cleveland, but he could be well on his way to become a huge superstar if he continues to pitch as well as he did last year. Number 12, Cal Raleigh, catcher, Seattle Mariners. One of only 13 players in the American League to smash 30 home runs last season after smashing 27 in 2022. Switch hitting catcher Cal Raleigh doesn't get much attention as an elite power hitter. He's also behind the dish for the majority of innings, catching the impressive Seattle Mariners pitching staff and doing a fantastic job at it. He doesn't bring a high batting average, but can work a walk and managed an on-base percentage over 300 last year. And when you add the solid defensive work, calling a great game every night, and the 30 home run power production together, you get a catcher most teams would love to have, despite the fact that his overall production often goes overlooked. Number 11, Tarek Skubal, starting pitcher, Detroit Tigers. Tigers lefty Tarek Skubal has quietly gotten better every season since his debut in 2020, and last year his ERA dropped to under 3 with an elite 11.4 strikeout per 9 ratio. He had some elbow issues and 2 surgeries, but when he's healthy, he has been dominant. And so far in 2024, Skubal is 2-0 after 3 starts with a 2.08 ERA and 20 strikeouts in 17 innings. He still doesn't get much attention as one of the top pitchers in the American League, but that could be changing very soon. For a player not picked until the 9th round, he has exceeded every expectations the Tigers ever had for him, and if he stays healthy this year, he could easily be in the conversation for the Cy Young Award as he helps this extremely young and talented Tigers team rise up as a serious contender moving forward. Number 10, Yainer Diaz, catcher, Houston Astros. Another amazing player surrounded by huge superstars in their lineup is catcher Yainer Diaz, who was tied for 3rd among catchers in all of baseball with 23 home runs. He also hit .282 with an .846 OPS, offensive production that nearly any team would take at the catching position, and he's also an elite blocker and has a strong and accurate arm, and he is among the best at controlling the running game and throwing out would-be base stealers. He's done all of that after just 1 season in the bigs, and so far in 2024, he's hitting over 300 with 3 bombs already as of April 14th. Look for Yainer Diaz to rise up as one of the best catchers in the game in the coming months and years. Number 9, Brandon Nimmo, center field, New York Mets. A 9-year veteran and 5-tool talent who has never made an all-star team or been considered a huge star in the game is Mets center fielder Brandon Nimmo. He's generally considered good but not great, but the Mets seem to think he was worth an 8-year, $162 million investment. The reason is that he brings consistent all-around production to the ballpark every night, resulting in a positive WAR every single season. He's able to make dazzling plays in the outfield, get on base with consistency, and at times bring some power, as he did last year with 24 home runs. He knows how to work a walk and has an extremely impressive .380 career on-base percentage with an .827 OPS. Despite all that, Brandon Nimmo is consistently undervalued in fantasy projections and all-star and award voting. Number 8, Nolan Jones, outfield, first base, Colorado Rockies. When I did my Rockies preview earlier this year, I myself was blown away to see that Nolan Jones nearly hit 300 last year with 20 home runs and a .931 OPS. And those 20 bombs came in just 367 at-bats. And before you credit Coors Field, he had completely even splits with his bombs, hitting 10 at home and 10 on the road, and actually had a higher OPS of .935 on the road. Playing with the not very good Colorado Rockies definitely doesn't help his exposure, and he finished 4th in the Rookie of the Year voting behind another underrated player, James Outman, but Jones was better than Outman in my opinion. He had a higher average, higher OPS, higher WAR, better home run per at-bat ratio. Nolan Jones is definitely one of the most underrated players in the game. Number 7, William Contreras, catcher, Milwaukee Brewers. William Contreras has somewhat quietly been one of the best hitting catchers in the game and has recently made huge strides to improve his skills behind the dish, becoming one of the better defensive catchers as well. He made his first mark on the league in 2022 when he crushed 20 home runs with Atlanta with a .278 average, and last year with the Brew Crew, he bumped that average to .289, still smashing 17 big flies with a career-high 78 RBIs. He got extremely hot towards the end of the season, resulting in a .314 average and .878 OPS for the second half. Contreras did get some credit from the award voters by finishing 11th, higher than Bryce Harper for the MVP, but he still feels quite a bit underrated. Number 6, Chris Martin, relief pitcher, Boston Red Sox. A player with an incredible journey to a decade-long MLB career is Chris Martin, who was originally drafted way back in 2004 by the Tigers and then again in 2005 by the Rockies. He suffered a shoulder injury before signing and ended up in the independent leagues before retiring from the game. Martin made a comeback attempt in 2011 and got into the Red Sox minor league system, slowly working his way up to the big leagues, and made his debut in 2014 with the team that drafted him, the Rockies. He now has a 9-year big league career with a 2-year detour in Japan and is coming off 2 elite seasons with a 1.46 ERA with the Dodgers in 2022 and an absolutely sick 1.05 ERA last year with Boston in 55 appearances. He has a solid 3.42 career ERA with 316 strikeouts in 308 innings. Despite all this, he's never made an all-star team and gets very little credit for being one of the best relief pitchers in all of baseball. Number 5, Chas McCormick, outfield, Houston Astros. Just like his teammate Yainer Diaz, it's tough to stand out when you're in a lineup with guys like Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, Jose Abreu, Alex Bregman, but Chas McCormick has quietly been one of the most productive players for the Astros despite all those big names. He's probably used to being underrated now after he was drafted in the 21st round of the 2017 draft, a round that doesn't even exist anymore, out of Division II Millersville. McCormick has become the only player picked from that round to become a productive big leaguer, and has arguably become the best offensive player in that entire draft. He hit a couple key postseason home runs during the Astros 22 World Series run, and last year crushed 22 bombs with an .842 OPS. His 2023 WAR was higher than Randy Arozarena, Matt Chapman, and his teammate Jeremy Pena. McCormick has also been one of the best defenders in the game and made just one error all season long last year. Number 4, Isaac Paredes, infield, Tampa Bay Rays. As a player who's been around the league a few years without doing much damage, it's no surprise that someone like Isaac Paredes could fly under the radar last season while crushing 31 home runs with 98 RBIs. He was another hidden gem on that Rays roster that helped them win nearly 100 games. He keeps his strikeouts down and has a solid walk rate, resulting in a .352 on-base percentage in 2023. The Rays appear to have completely won the trade that sent Austin Meadows to the Detroit Tigers for Paredes. Meadows hit just .250 without a home run last season. Paredes has stats that should make him a household name, but he just doesn't seem to get near that type of attention. Number 3, Andres Gimenez, infield, Cleveland Guardians. Another well-kept secret for the Guardians is infielder Andres Gimenez, whose name doesn't jump off the page as a huge superstar. He was considered a light-hitting utility guy with the Mets until he ended up with the Guardians in 2021. And by 22, he was in the everyday lineup and quietly had a phenomenal season, hitting .297 with 69 RBIs. Andres Gimenez was 7th in WAR in all of baseball. The only players better were Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Sandy Alcantara, Nolan Arenado, and Paul Goldschmidt. Gimenez was also one of the best defenders in the game and won back-to-back Gold Gloves. He's off to a hot start in 24 with a .326 average and .896 OPS as of mid-April. Number 2, Ha-Seong Kim, second base, San Diego Padres. It's no surprise a player like Ha-Seong Kim, who just came over from South Korea in 2021, is completely underrated, playing alongside guys like Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, Xander Bogaerts, and until recently, Juan Soto. However, the numbers don't lie, and Ha-Seong Kim adds an incredible amount of value to his team as an elite defender at multiple positions, but he can also rake. Kim had a .351 on-base percentage last season with 17 bombs, 23 doubles, and he stole 38 bases. He was incredibly 13th in all of baseball in WAR, better than Juan Soto, Tatis Jr., Corbin Carroll, Julio Rodriguez, and many other big-name superstars. In defensive WAR, he was 12th in all of MLB. In other words, Ha-Seong Kim should be one of the biggest stars in the game, but I don't think his name carries that type of weight, although his performance does. Number 1, Yandy Diaz, first base, third base, Tampa Bay Rays. Coming in as my most underrated player in all of MLB is the amazing Yandy Diaz, who I feel has been overshadowed recently by Wander Franco. Of course, that's a situation that will no longer be a problem. But for several years, Yandy Diaz has quietly raked at the plate and played solid defense with a strong and accurate arm. He may not be one of the greatest defensive players, but he makes the routine plays and some spectacular ones as well. Offensively, Diaz is one of the best in baseball and just led the league with an incredible .330 batting average in 2023. He also hit 22 homers with a .410 on-base percentage and had an elite OPS of .932, 7th in all of baseball, better than Juan Soto, and every player with a higher OPS than Yandy Diaz is a bona fide MLB superstar. Shohei Ohtani, Corey Seager, Ronald Acuna Jr., Matt Olson, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman. I just realized there are 3 Dodgers on that list. But it's not like he's completely ignored. Most fans realize that he's a solid player, but I think many would find it ridiculous to put him in the same company as guys like Freddie Freeman and Juan Soto. But statistically, that's how valuable he is, and I believe Yandy Diaz is the most underrated player in the game. And that does it for my list of the top 25 active underrated players. I know many people are going to completely disagree, so feel free to put other guys in the comments that I missed and let me know where you agree and where you disagree. Thank you so much for the support. I do appreciate it. Hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed the video, and we'll talk to you in the next one.